Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the inimitable, irreparable, irrevocable thing, the show that this is, um, the reading cow from another world. Coming to you with, trying to get on to a new role here, so this is an interesting book where, um, got this I think he's a historian of Africa, right? And he was like in North Africa fighting the Nazis during World War II. And he's a paratrooper, and he paratrooped into Yugoslavia, into Bosnia to hook up with the partisans, the guerrillas, and fight the Germans. They meet Tito and stuff like that. So anyway, this is what he said. He said, in those days, before the landings in North Africa, the thoughts of everyone at base were turned towards the western desert and the fortunes of the battle there. Landings on the continent were far beyond the margin of the general picture. Those few individuals whose business it was to go into the invaded continent were turning their backs on the front line in favor of some cloud cuckoo land, of which next to nothing was known. I know I would be. I don't know what I would have been doing. I definitely don't want to kill people. The real fighting was in the desert. The rest was still a sideshow, amusing perhaps, but not really important. News from the occupied countries trickled out through tortuous channels, often much distorted on the way, and there were occasional travelers whose credentials were not always sure, but on the whole it was anybody's guess as to what might be happening there. People went in with the sketchiest of directives, and once they were gone, it was too late to tell them any better. That's what it is. Exactly what he said. They had gone for good. I used to go and see them off sometimes in the days before. Okay, let's see. I used to go and see them off sometimes in the days before my own turn came. The aerodrome affected by our four-old crocs would depend on the state of the front. Later on, it would be beyond Mirza, then beyond El Adem, then Edirne, finally beyond Benghazi. But before Alamein, it was inconveniently close to Cairo at Fayid beside the canal, reached by the main road that runs out of Cairo alongside the irrigation ditches toward Ismailia. Ismailia. Yeah. However you say that. Children in once white shirts ran about in the road. Donkeys stood with eternal patience before the dark doorways or moved at a snail's pace down the road beside the canals with baskets of fruit and green stuff on their backs. That's colorful imagery. Flies crawled over everything. Bzzz. Okay, that adds something to the whole visual imagery. The smell of Egypt lay thick and heavy on the air. Is this xenophobizationalisms of something? Right. Um, uh, no, he didn't say that. Yeah, he did. He said, the world was one of sand and shit. Nothing had changed in a million years. He says that. That's revealing. That's a little bit more about this man's character. All right. What was his motivation? And I don't like that. And then, once past the canals, the irrigation and the lines of palms would disappear, and we were out on the open desert, and abruptly the whole focus would shift into another world, and huge airplanes would be scattered about the sand as far as one could see. Airplanes capable of flying right out of this world we knew and dropping bombs in Italy, in the Balkans, indeed in Europe. And there, amidst this wealth and splendor, bomber blades, right? Wealth and splendor, right? Would be R for black. Yeah. Amidst this wealth and splendor would be our 4 black liberators. This is their bombers. 4 big bombers, possibly capable of flight. We would stop the staff car and get out and stumble over the sand, and sometimes to our agonized gaze, there would be 1 engine running. Sometimes 2 or 3, or all 4. But more often, there was desolation and silence and complete absence of humanity, such as only the Desert Air Force in its Olympian indifference could realize. Finally, in all that waste, sun and space, and abandoned aircraft, some casual figure would be discerned, and anyone given to philosophy could reflect, if he could be bothered, on that most surprising interplay of men and machines which made up desert warfare. Oh, really? Is that what it's like? Interesting. All right. The small black figure would approach and grow larger and turn into a shock-haired mechanic who appeared to own the whole Air Force, and this all-powerful oracle would pronounce the fatal sentence dreaded by all who had waited weeks to go. She's U.S. She's U.S. That's what he said. And we would look savagely at that big black bomber with its 4 miserable engines and shake our heads, get back into the staff car, and return to the hated flesh plots of the Kasser el Nil. But every now and then, all 4 propellers would turn at once, and W for Willie, or one of his mates, X, Y, and Z, would be pronounced on. And then it was with a different emotion that we stood in the warm sand in the glare of the desert, beneath the enamel sky and sun blazing like incandescent brass, and listened to the terrific roar of Willie's 4 engines being warmed up. The man who was going, who had shared the Middle East with us for so long that we'd almost forgotten its discomfort, would come out of the dresser's tent, a tiny affair 2 feet high, and all the fussy paraphernalia. 2 feet high? How can a tent be 2 feet high? What? And all the fussy paraphernalia of operational jumping. The fussy paraphernalia of operational jumping? That's this gear, right, that he's wearing, like George Bush on Mission Accomplished. Right? All right. Wonderfully transformed. Yeah, the padded strip tees and the windproof sidcot that were regulation wear against the cold of high-altitude flying in an unheated fuselage would be stuffed with his revolver and his bag of gold, his maps and flashlight, compass, odds and ends. He was unbearably hot and very angry about some tedious detail. His sidcot didn't fit. Someone had given him the wrong ammunition. He was absolutely convinced that the essential wireless transmitter hadn't been packed in the load to be dropped with him. God knows what they hadn't done with his stores. In that time and place, he filled the whole world and was the center of the universe. I would be too, man, if they're about to drop me in Bosnia's forests, the wilderness. There's wolves. Yeah. Did you know that if you were a partisan, you could be devoured by wolves? This wilderness. All right, let's see. So after he describes this guy, where's my stuff? Y'all forgot everything. Where's this? Where's that? Right? He's going to say this. He's going to say, and there was something right and proper about this. We felt towards him as towards a man who was voyaging to another planet. A man we might perhaps be seeing for the last time. A man whose voice henceforth, if we heard it all, would be ciphered into code and sent us in Morse. At the back of all our minds was the unanswered question. What will it be like? And we fussed over him and sued them rather as if we were helping him into the next world. We feel sorry for you, buddy. His destination would be anything up to 1,200 miles away. But for us, it might have been 1,000,000. We leant against the rushing mighty wind of Willie's engines and tried to make ourselves heard. The air would be heavy with the sour sweet smell of Aero petrol. The man who was going would be cheerfully certain that the flight would be a flop, that even if he got there and found the fires, this might be his third or fourth or fifth attempt to find them, and dropped, it would then turn out that all the important things had been forgotten in the load, or they would drop him in the wrong place, or they would get there and the signals fail to come up, or anything might happen. But by this time, the heat and the clothing and the tension of having to say goodbye had brought him to such a pitch of desperation that he wanted nothing better than to be gone. Man, get it over with. Yeah! Once in the plane and off the ground with Willie's engines even down to a level hum of efficiency, his thoughts would clear and he would stop being angry. Hours would pass, and over the sea the night would fall, and Willie would be blacked out, a noise in the sky and nothing more. Then it was that he would begin to feel the nearness of the unseen continent, its enmity and strangeness, as it lay there beyond the night. And this feeling would become a quick thrill of triumph when he sighted the coast of Greece. Stark and clearly cut far down below him, the rising moon giving edge to wildly rising mountains and lying milkily across the sea. He would lie in the glass nose of the navigator's cockpit and discover how Corfu came out of the sea and combed mountains that were covered with dark silver rocks, a watery gleaming on ragged, crumpled cloth. Tiny waves would turn the silver in the moonlight like gently moving lips. Willie's 4 engines would never falter. The pilot in the cockpit seemed made of stone. These were the elements of his adventure, an assembly of men and machinery convenient to normal life that suddenly had combined together to convey him into utter abnormality. And there was a paradox in this that would mingle with his thrill of triumph, give added point to the strangeness of those rocky silent coastlines and their moonstruck desolation, foretell his loneliness. Further up the coast, with the mountains still gleaming like watery silver cloth, cut deep here and there with appalling shadows, W for Willie would bank gently inwards, leaving the sea behind. The man would work his way back to the fuselage. The queasy moments before dropping were almost here. The dispatcher would fit on parachutes and try to look cheerful. A bottle of rum would go from mouth to mouth. Tongues would be drier even than before. Came the moment to link up static lines and the agonizing wait on the edge of the hull, while W for Willie circled round and round looking for the signals. And then the moment when the signals were sighted, improbable points of red light flickering and flaring in the darkness below, and then the preliminary run in, and then the run in to drop the Mark C containers that held the stores, and then another run, and then another, and then, with the dispatcher's voice hoarse in your ear, you would watch for the red light, and when the red light came on, you would watch for the green light, measuring the sickening seconds, and then your heart would leap up into your mouth and you would go pelting downwards into the darkness. What a drag. And as you went, your whole being and existence would echo one central question. What will it be like? Alright, so I'm going to break up. See you next time on the next thrilling episode of the chapter section of the adventure of the serialized thing show that this is. Hope you enjoyed The Reading Cow of Another World. Partisan picture, Davidson.